And here we are at video 6 in the 6-part series, pointing toward authenticity and the road home to our truest nature. You can find the rest of the videos here that we're put in a playlist, make it a lot easier. And as mentioned before, there's no need to watch any of these videos in any particular order. Although if you do decide to engage with this, please watch them all, because if there's any hesitation, resistance, or avoidance in any of these particular aspects of authenticity, identity will continue to linger right there. If you've been on the journey with me for this week, thank you for walking along with me. And if this is the first video that you're encountering, welcome. Before we dig into the next aspect, it seems like it might be a good idea to do a little bit of a recap. Being a human being is, well, it's amazing. And to allow ourselves to be just fully what we are shows us quite a bit. There is something miraculous that tends to happen when we reach a place of pure authenticity, unabashedly, just authentic, just what we are. Somehow, paradoxically, it arises that we lose our sense of selves there, and we start taking the path toward liberation. To be human is to be playful. To be human is a courageous experience. It's filled with intuition, it's filled with curiosity, and it's quite expressive. Without hesitation, this is just who we are at our truest nature. And there is something miraculous here, that when we are our most authentic selves, we see that there is no difference between any of us. And the beautiful thing is that awakening is available to every human being on this planet, regardless of race, class, country, any dividing factor. It shows up. And it's just as available to you as it has been for anyone since the dawn of mankind. Today we're going to speak about giving and how that shows up as compassion. We can call it love sometimes, although love does have quite a large variety of definitions, and so compassion just seems to fit the bill a little more. Here, to explore this aspect of authenticity, what we can look at is what part of ourselves is hesitating in a state of giving, in the state of exchange with other human beings, and even more importantly, this giving, this being, this presence with ourselves. So another way to put this is give and give freely. Engage in a compassionate sense of giving to ourselves and also to others. Test the limits of what you are willing to give and what you are not willing to give. It might be useful to look at the variety of ways that people give and just to see if some of those ways are being co-opted by the ego. The ego can be really tricky here. Any type of giving that we engage in that is oriented around gaining is definitely being co-opted by ego. To give freely means that we aren't looking for any sort of result, that we are in the midst, we are in the moment, and that is the essence of compassion. So we can break that down a little bit further. Looking at giving for recognition or giving for that type of validation. An example of that could be somebody who gives a lot of money to charity with the expectation and the knowing that they will be put on a list and they will get some sort of fame or recognition in that way. That is not freely giving. That is giving in a way that is being co-opted by the ego. There is also giving for comfort or giving to avoid conflict. As covered in the Be Honest video, some people engage in this type of giving, and externally, it looks very, very free. Yet, internally, we recognize that we are giving because we are in a state of hesitation, and it is actually a painful experience. To give to the point of depletion is also not freely giving. That is self-sacrifice, and once again, strangely enough, being co-opted by the ego. There is also giving for reciprocation, a transactional type of giving. If I give you this, you give me that. And while that may seem like a very noble way to give, it is also, once again, being co-opted by ego. To give with a reason, to give with an expected outcome, that is not freely giving. That is not giving from a state of compassion. What we are really looking at here is giving without orientation, giving without reason, except to give, giving without anything to gain. That is the essence of what it is to freely give. So to play with that a little bit more, we can dig into the aspects of that which is uncomfortable. It can be a little bit tricky if we look at giving in the way that it always shows up in an external sense. And so what can that look like here internally, and what can that look like in a way that doesn't cost any money or deplete any other type of personal resources? To give to ourselves freely is to be able to sit in the rest of these 5 aspects and live in that way without hesitation. That is true compassionate giving of self. To live in a state of unbridled and non-hesitant compassion is the highest state of giving that we can be in. And as mentioned before, ironically, to enter into a place of 100% authenticity is to eventually give up the biggest thing that we possibly can have, and that is the self. To give up the self is the most selfless thing we could ever do. Further than that, interpersonal relationships. To engage in a type of honesty and openness with someone else on a completely unbridled, non-hesitant level is another form of selfless giving. To constantly be in a state of vulnerability and openness is a type of compassionate giving. But we can even play with that a little bit more. For a baby step, you can just go somewhere like a grocery store or just somewhere out in public and allow yourself to be completely engaged with the environment and in the moment. And maybe you spot a stranger and you notice a pair of shoes that are actually really nice, coming from a place of authenticity. Approach that stranger, make eye contact with them, and give them a compliment without having any anticipation or expectation of their reaction, of the result. We are now connecting in a compassionate way with someone else, and we are giving freely. Find where the pressure point begins. Give in a way that triggers the identity and makes it feel uncomfortable. And as you continue to give in this way, you will find that in the moment, being compassionate is effortless and easy. You will find yourself meeting people exactly where they are. You will find yourself meeting this moment, you, exactly where you are. And it suddenly seems as if everything becomes completely effortless. This is the aspect of giving that we're pointing to. Step into a complete state of compassion and allow yourself to be just 100% authentic. And I think what you'll find is this is effortless. This is quite easy. Establish freely giving as an entire way of life. Give so freely that there is no more orientation. There's no reason, there's no expectation, there's no anticipation, there's no need for gain. And you will begin to engage with all of these aspects of authenticity in such a unique way that you displace yourself from the center of the universe, and the outside flips in, and the inside flips out, and you lose all sense of self. This is a very vivid aspect of the path to awakening, and it can give you quite a bit of insight. Give freely, give without gain, and just watch as the magic unfolds on its own.